Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Max from the Black Jersey, and I'm hosting a great channel once again. This video is going to be very different from my past videos because it is the first time I have done a player analysis on a player who is not an All Black. Today we're going to be covering Cheslin Kolbe, and the first thing I'm going to do for you guys is explain why this fella is so good. So Cheslin Kolbe is obviously one of the most agile rugby players in the world. He's got a very famous step, and South African fans are in love with him and his step. French fans love it too because he plays for Toulouse over there, and the guy has become a guy with a really good reputation, and is essentially known as one of the best rugby players in the world. He was nominated for World Rugby Player of the Year in 2019, even though it was only his second season of international rugby. This guy probably would have won last year if there was an awards ceremony, and I have no doubt he will be indeed nominated again for this year, 2021. So the All Blacks are coming up against the Springboks in only a short amount of time, so I want to cover how to stop Cheslin Kolbe before our boys end up playing against the Springboks, because I want the All Blacks to win, so I'm hopefully going to give them a little bit of advice on how to shut this guy down completely. Let's hop right into it. As I have covered, yes, he is the most agile player in the world. Yes, he is incredibly fast, but he is also a very good defender. As you can see from some examples I have here on the screen, he's not just a winger, but he's a winger that can tackle. Now, wingers and being able to tackle is something that doesn't really go in the same sentence together. That's why it's really enjoyable to see guys like Kolbe tackling people like Courtney Laws and Rieko Ioane. Cheslin Kolbe's fearless and he's got guts. He can fend too. The guy's very difficult to defend against because you just don't know what the heck he's gonna do. So I've got solutions though. That's the great thing about being able to watch things in this era of analysis. We're going to go over now the way he steps when he's in position on the wing, and later on I'm going to get into how you can defend him when he's around the field. So I'll bring up some examples for you guys right over here, okay? When he stands on the wing, Kolbe runs his lines excellently. As you can see here, after receiving the ball from Willie le Roux, he's about to score a try against the British and Irish Lions. Now guys, before Kolbe steps, he's always removing both of his legs from the ground so that his feet aren't touching it. He has a brief jump, and because he does this, it causes his defenders to feel a bit of indecision before they try to tackle him. Kolbe performs his step by leaning towards the touchline with his right leg before adjusting his core muscles to balance himself. He then powers towards his inside using that same right leg he was initially leaning towards the touchline with. He then uses his left leg to land further inside the field of play. Liam Williams, who is the Lions fullback, suddenly only has one arm to tackle with. Kolbe uses his core muscles to fend Williams, balancing on his left leg as he does so. He's then able to fend Luke Cowan-Dickie the hooker using only his arm before running the ball a further 7 meters or so to score his team's only try of the game. Now you guys are going to notice a pattern with the way Cheslin Kolbe steps. He does a very similar thing in the 2019 World Cup when playing against England in the final. He does a very similar thing when he's against Owen Farrell. Now that we're looking, there is a pattern with the way Kolbe sidesteps. So first off, he's got the pass from Peter Steph du Toit of all players, and he's 40 meters away from the try line. Joe Marler, the prop, is the nearest defender, so he'll never match Kolbe for speed. Kolbe gains about 8 meters with ball in hand before, once again, leaning towards the touchline before readjusting his core muscles, and he's then stepping with his left leg leaning towards the touchline too. After taking a step with his left leg, before using it to lunge inside the field of play, Owen Farrell has suddenly only got one arm to tackle with, as Kolbe has moved further infield. Kolbe then fends Farrell in almost the same way he did for Liam Williams, adding in his arm, as Farrell is huge for a first 5. Billy Vunipola now is far too slow to catch Kolbe, which allows Kolbe to put the World Cup final out of England's reach. So how do you defend against Cheslin Kolbe when he makes a line break such as these? My solution can be used in open play, as well as when Kolbe's broken the line. Richie Mwanga, who is well and truly our country's best first 5, knows exactly what Kolbe is going to do here. Kolbe has attempted to step, but Mwanga is still in front of him. Mwanga reacts by slowing down and moving away from Kolbe. Kolbe is no longer in front of Mwanga, who has now cornered Kolbe into the outside of the field. It's all a foot race from here, and Mwanga is able to run towards Kolbe, bringing him into touch. The touchline has essentially worked as an extra defender for the All Blacks here. Running at Kolbe full pace in a one-on-one scenario is pretty poor in terms of decision making, as you're going to have less agility yourself to keep up with him when he steps. Because Mwanga has allowed himself some time, Kolbe is unable to step back inside, as Mwanga is now on a side-on position, where he can use both of his own arms to complete the tackle on Kolbe. The thing is, it's not as simple as I am making it out to be. It is definitely easier said than done, because Kolbe does this all the darn time when he's in general play as well. It's not just when he's on his wing when he does this. He's borderline undefendable. So my solution, guys, is stop using rush defense when you're defending against Cheslin Kolbe. The thing is, nowadays, a lot of coaches are still implementing rush defense systems, just like the one Andy Farrell developed for Ireland in 2016 and for the British and Irish Lions in a tweaked version for 2017. The thing is with rush defense is you can rush up and you can kill an attack, but the thing is with a guy like Kolbe out there, this is essentially creating a one-on-one, because you need so many players in your initial defense line to actually rush up at full pace without conceding a break. That's why in a rush defense system you're only ever seeing a fullback and maybe a winger too as cover for the high ball behind the main defensive line. Now this does not work with Kolbe, as I've said, because it gives him so much more room to make a break. So I want a lot of teams to start using a cover defense system to work against Kolbe with. With a cover defense, everyone's in far more of a staccato-like shape. It's very zigzaggy, and it's much more like mountains and valleys rather than a flat plateau line. Excuse my geography, but this is probably the best way of describing this defensive strategy. The Crusaders use it quite a lot, because although their tackle accuracy from 2017 and 18 weren't the highest, they were still allowing fewer meters to be conceded, because even though there was initial guys missing their first tackle, there was a forward there in behind to sweep things up and get over the ball. A cover defense makes things a lot easier, because when Kolbe steps the first defender, there's another one in behind to take him down, get over the ball and possibly win a turnover. The issue with that again as well is that Damian de Allende and Lucanio Arm are South Africa's midfield. For those who are new to rugby, South Africa typically has a first choice backline of Faf de Klerk, Handré Pollard, Makazole Mapimpi, Damian de Allende, Lucanio Arm, Cheslin Kolbe and Willie le Roux at fullback. Now, this makes it a lot harder to defend Kolbe, because a cover defense doesn't necessarily work on these guys. Damian de Allende and Lucanio Arm as a midfield pairing is essentially having two second fives on the field. It's just that Lucanio Arm's so world class that he's adjusted his vision to defend in the 13 channel, and henceforth he's such a good rush defender. Handré Pollard's a very big boy as well. He's over 100 kgs, even though he is a first five. And then when you get out wider, le Roux, Kolbe and Mapimpi are so much more agile than these big guys. They can step anyone. LaRue is essentially the player Beauden Barrett could have become, because LaRue's pretty much a first 5 that's really good under the high ball and has a ridiculous ton of pace. Because LaRue's in there as a second playmaker, South Africa's always able to get a second person in there to allow South Africa a better chance of unlocking a defensive line and setting up Mapimpi and Kolbe. For example, over here, LaRue is definitely entering the defensive line quite a lot later than you normally would, but this eventually creates a 2-on-1, allowing Kolbe to come through, give a kick-off to Herschel Jantjies, so that way South Africa can get a draw with us. With the cover defense as well, because Dialendi and are so physical, it does take more than one man to bring them down. So suddenly there is still a hole left in your cover defense, particularly out wide. So there is still room for Kolbe. So my conclusion is pretty much that although you're never going to get your defensive line perfectly to defend against Kolbe, he is not undefendable. If South Africa do have injuries towards Dialendi and it will be far easier to tackle Kolbe, because Jesse Creel is not a very big guy, so he's a lot easier to tackle. The thing is with a cover defense, because it's pretty much like a game of chess in terms of arrangement, there is far more room between the players as well, as some are behind the others. This can allow Kolbe to set up his teammates, so what you need to do when you're trying to get Kolbe down is you either need a power winger at 11 to mark him, or you do need a forward operating in the wide channels. Warren Gatland tries to use this tactic on Cheslin Kolbe. He was using a 1-3-3-1 throughout the Lions series, so he was having a forward on either wing, then he had 2 pods of 3 forwards around the main field to do the dirty work and just remain invisible, carrying on with their core roles. How did this tactic work? First off, Cheslin Kolbe did not make a ridiculous amount of meters. Duhan van der Merwe was pretty much all over him, and in the scenario where Cheslin Kolbe did indeed score that try by fending off Williams and Cowan-Dickie, van der Merwe was nowhere near him, so there really wasn't a lot you could do. Cowan-Dickie was behind Kolbe as well because he just didn't have the pace. So when you're using a rush defense system, that's definitely not going to work because this guy's just far too agile. And when you are using a cover defense, it's a huge gamble, but it can be achievable if you're able to suck in Duane Vermeulen, Damian Dialendi, or Lucanio Arm. It's going to be a very hard task for our boys to defend against Cheslin Kolbe, but I do hope I've offered some insight into possible ways of defending him. I know there's no way I could ever tackle him because I am indeed not an expert. However, this can hopefully be useful, guys, so I've been happy to make this for you. So yeah, guys, that's what I've got for you today. So please go down to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you're always going to know when I've got a new video for you guys. Please join the Discord server, follow the Black Jersey on Instagram, and more. The link tree is linked in the bio. Thank you so much for watching, guys. As I said, I am not an expert, but I really hope this is some good advice on how to defend the beast that is Cheslin Kolbe, the future World Player of the Year. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you later, okay?